Over the past couple of weeks, we've been getting some major updates on Season 2 of the Fallout TV show, and some of the details being shared have major implications for the future of the Fallout franchise, as the TV show may be deciding a canon ending for Fallout New Vegas, and even Mr. House is described as playing a role in Season 2. But Season 2 of the Fallout TV show may also be coming out much sooner than you think. One of the points we've constantly seen brought up around the Fallout TV show is how the popularity of the show is an immense surprise. Prime Video reported how 65 million people viewed Season 1 of Fallout within the first 16 days of release, making this the second largest release in Prime Video's history. And considering the fact that the #1 show with The Boys is currently having its series finale air right now on Prime Video, it kind of makes Fallout the de facto #1 show going forward. And as such, all indications are pointing to the fact that Amazon wants Season 2 of Fallout out as soon as possible. The showrunners, as well as the main protagonists of the show, have recently done a series of interviews, and it was described how the showrunners quite literally are stepping out of the writer's room for these interviews, as Season 2 writing is fully underway right now, and they go a bit more in detail around all of this in a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter. We are going as fast as we possibly can, and we got a lot of heavy lifting from Season 1 already done. We have sets, assets, visual effects that are already done. We are hitting the ground running this season. We're going to be pedal to the metal to get Season 2 out as fast as humanly possible. So it seems like what happened was, after the overwhelming success of Season 1 of Fallout, Amazon renewed the show and immediately got those showrunners working on Season 2. It honestly sounds like they had virtually no downtime between Season 1 releasing and Season 2 writing beginning. But that's not entirely a bad thing, because it seems like a lot of the work done for Season 1 will be able to be carried over to get an even faster Season 2. As well, some of the plot lines are already being visualized and even explained with some high-level details in these interviews. We definitely have an idea of where some characters are headed in Season 2, which I'll look at more closely later on in this video. And we've also heard how some of these Season 2 plot lines were already partially written. There's so many things we wanted to do in Season 1 where we were like, that could be amazing, let's do it in Season 2. So it feels like we're much farther along. It basically seems like they had a lot of interesting ideas going into Fallout Season 1, began writing scripts for a ton of those ideas, but then realized, oh, this won't work yet, and shelved a bunch of stuff. But now, since they're just jumping into Season 2 almost immediately, they can immediately go back to that shelf and take those scripts off the wall to start working on them once again and fleshing things out for Season 2. So Fallout Season 2 returning in 2025 seems like a very realistic possibility, particularly when you consider, as the showrunners pointed out, they already have so many sets complete, and filming on Season 2 will be even easier since they're moving to California now. I feel like this is going to be relatively smooth sailing because we have so much great desert right here in California. We're going to start scouting locations we literally can drive from the writer's room. That was tricky about New York. We are shooting partially in the summer and partially in the middle of winter. And some of those exteriors, the gray skies, they're just not as beautiful. So as you can start to see, a lot of things are going for a Fallout Season 2 coming out pretty quickly. Some of the writing work has already been done from Season 1, but they're already writing Season 2. But then even further, you have a bunch of sets already built. They're moving filming to California, where the TV show literally takes place. And for me personally, I suspect they are internally targeting a 2025 date. And even in this interview, I think one of the showrunners wanted to mention 2025, but he doesn't, and instead says the internet has an interesting habit of making non-binding statements binding. So I'm hesitant to give a date that will be taken out of context and live on Reddit for a year or so. So yeah, to me, 2025 seems hopeful, but it also doesn't seem all that unrealistic. At this current rate, it almost sounds like they could begin filming Season 2 in 2024, particularly when you consider that basically everyone wants Season 2 out as fast as humanly possible. But thanks to this rapid progress, we've also already started to hear about some of the plot lines that will come to fruition in Season 2. But speaking of rapid progress, do you like waiting for your food to be ready? Because if you'd rather just have a fridge full of food that is ready in 2 minutes or less, maybe you should check out today's video sponsor, Factor. If you're lazy, you're gonna love Factor. You'll get a giant box of meals delivered right to your front door, and congrats, no more grocery shopping this week. Simply pop these meals into the microwave and you can have some delicious and ready to eat filet mignon in 2 minutes or less. You don't even have to use a plate. Not having to clean up after lunch has been a genuine game changer for me. And the best part about all of this is you're actually eating good. These meals are never frozen, are chef crafted, and can even help you hit those summer fitness goals with 35 meal options each week like keto or even calorie smart. But let's keep it real, 2 minutes is honestly a long time for some of you. So thankfully Factor also offers snack options like smoothies, juices, and more. And since you watched this video, you're in luck. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link. So click that link in the description or scan the QR code on screen with your phone now. Looking ahead at Fallout Season 2, we hear how the overarching feel of the show is expected to continue. I'm really excited to continue in Season 2 is that blend of tones. that the show can have sitcom moments that are juxtaposed with people shooting each other, which is good. Season 1 of Fallout did manage to strike that really nice balance of genuine laugh-out-loud moments that would almost immediately cut to other moments where you want to look away because of how fucked up it is. I have to imagine that's a really difficult balance to strike. The feel of Fallout is very specific, but I'm happy that they recognize this as a major point that made Season 1 work so well, and are focusing on bringing back that same feel for Season 2. But one of the other major through points we keep seeing described for Season 2 is major character growth on really all three fronts. Maximus, Lucy, and the Ghoul all kind of ended Season 1 with a revelation that has the potential to really propel them forward in Season 2. And yeah, obviously, characters grow over the course of the TV show, but specifically with these characters, it almost feels like each of these could have a fairly significant change-up when it comes to Season 2 compared to how they behaved and acted in Season 1. Lucy finds out the realities around her parents, Maximus seeing the realities of the Wasteland and the Brotherhood of Steel, and the Ghoul on a direct pursuit to his family, but now with Lucy kind of in tow with him. And from recent interviews, we do get to hear a bit more about what type of growth we can expect as those two characters begin to adventure together. On this new Lucy and the Ghoul relationship, Walton Goggins describes how it isn't father-daughter. I think it is a person who has seen the loss of innocence in another person and deeply empathizes with it because he himself went through a similar experience 200 years earlier, and is still reeling from the loss of that innocence that his tone changes. And when he says, "Are you coming?" I just think that's a pretty cool way to go out. It really seems like the show is setting up Lucy and the Ghoul to have a closer connection in Season 2, with each adopting traits of the other person. It sounds like the Ghoul's path will move to him being a bit less ruthless as he regains some humanity, while conversely, Lucy moves to become even more ruthless as she becomes a true and proper Wastelander. And the showrunners go on to describe what we're already into in Season 2 is exploring how far we want to push this character Lucy. How much do we want to see her hang onto herself? It becomes the game of the show in its own way. More so than with anyone else, it feels like Season 1 is us watching Lucy lose her innocence. And it almost feels like part of her character arc is already completed based off of what happens in the finale of Season 1. So I wouldn't be shocked if even right out of the gate, we see a bit of a different Lucy with Season 2. But for me, the character I am most excited to see continued is Maximus. As it's described, he ends up with an obliteration of optimism. And in recent interviews, it is described how that loss of optimism drives him through the rest of the series. And that feels like a really big implication. It's not even like they're just saying for the rest of Season 2, but for the whole freaking show. Just like Lucy, I have to imagine that as we revisit Maximus in Season 2, he's going to look very different compared to how we saw him for the vast majority of Season 1. But Season 2 is not only going to be exploring the future of these characters, but it'll be introducing a bunch of new stuff as well. The ending of Fallout Season 1 revealed that things are headed towards New Vegas, and in a recent interview, the showrunners confirmed this even more explicitly.
Many of our lead characters are Vegas bound, and Las Vegas in the world of Fallout is Robert House's town. That Robert House
might have something to do with it.
Will be involved in Season 2.
So as you could probably imagine, the second this interview went live, thousands of Reddit posts were made speculating around what this could all mean. Specifically around the quote that Fallout Season 2 will be taking us to the Vegas Strip, but even more notably, Robert House will be involved in Season 2. At the end of the Fallout TV show, we see how the Vegas Strip has largely been destroyed. You can see remnants of the NCR, Securitrons, and even Deathclaws. Based off what they show, it really seems like the battle for Vegas happened here, and it ended with almost everyone losing. Vegas just looks like it's in disrepair now. The showrunners have further confirmed that Deathclaws will be a part of Season 2, so they'll play a role perhaps here in Vegas, but also just in general throughout the show. But they also have given us some color on this credit scene in a past interview, saying, "All we want the audience to know is that things have happened, so that there isn't an expectation that we pick the show up in Season 2 following one of the myriad canon endings that depends on your choices when you play Fallout New Vegas." And to me, that response is really interesting. From other interviews, we've heard how Todd Howard only asked one thing of the showrunners, and that was to not canonize any endings from the various Fallout games. That only actually applies to 2 games, Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4. The rest have had a canonized ending from some of the other games to release. So taking that together with the fact that Robert House is involved in Season 2 leads me to believe that we'll mostly be seeing him as a pre-war character, just like how we saw him in Season 1. Otherwise, you seemingly would need to canonize one of the endings of New Vegas because, well, spoilers, but Mr. House doesn't survive all of the endings of Fallout New Vegas. And honestly, I think this could make a ton of sense. At the end of Season 1, we see a largely destroyed New Vegas, and I wouldn't be shocked if the NCR attacked. They used what power they had to try and take Vegas for themselves, and maybe it didn't go that well. Maybe a Deathclaw attack broke out in the middle of a war between the Securitrons and the NCR that just led to everyone dying, and that's the reason the NCR are so weak throughout the entirety of the Fallout TV show. But House is just dead, and it's never really clarified whether he died in the New Vegas ending or during some of these conflicts that occurred after the ending of New Vegas. 15 years have passed now for the time of the TV show. I wouldn't be shocked if they just don't clarify that. Because at the same time, seeing pre-war House is almost more exciting to me. One of the other standout shots in the finale of the show is this panning shot to the Tops Cryo Suites, the Tops being a casino on the Strip. This seems to be the likely explanation as to how Moldaver survived from pre-war to over 100 years later at the time of the TV show. She was cryogenically frozen within the Tops. This leads me to believe that we could see some really cool pre-war interactions between Moldaver and House in Vegas. And just in general, perhaps the rise of House, how he really got as much power as we see him have at the time of Fallout New Vegas. You can see a ton of interesting interactions between House and Moldaver. She tries to build up her resistance movement, as well as one other factor that could come into play with all of this is Vault-Tec HQ. To go along with the TV show, they've been releasing a ton of Vault-Tec promotional videos, and one of them showed this epic Vault-Tec HQ that looks very similar to Vault Zero. Vault Zero is from Fallout Tactics, and it contained a Vault-Tec supercomputer as well as cryogenically frozen Vault-Tec members. This seems like too large of a coincidence to just be thrown in here randomly with this video, and it could even come into play as the location of Cooper Howard's wife and daughter. We know Cooper Howard's wife was a member of Vault-Tec, so it seems plausible that she could be frozen at their HQ. And that too could all come into play with the Moldaver/House plotline in the pre-war. Or maybe none of that. They of course could just do something wild. Maybe we just get a synth House, or they just end up confirming one of the endings as canon. But either way, looking ahead to season 2 of Fallout, I think if you really enjoyed some of those pre-war scenes, which I know I did, that was some of my favorite content from the show, I really suspect that based off what they've shared thus far about season 2, we'll be seeing a lot more of this pre-war content as a part of season 2. But at the same time, everything they've described thus far also makes me think we'll have a lot more controversy around season 2 compared to season 1. Going back to Vegas and exploring the lore there will just automatically lead to controversy, even if that controversy is unfounded. And then when you couple that with the fact that they have a bunch of quotes about how they're trying to get season 2 out as fast as humanly possible, definitely give me some pause. Based off what they described with season 2, it sounds like they are already entering into a delicate territory lore-wise, and then also hearing they're trying to write all of these plot lines as quickly as possible just kind of sounds like this could be a recipe for some very pissed off fans. Although for better or for worse, Kilter Films, who are making Fallout, have actually been burned by this before. They had a very quick turnaround between Westworld season 1 and 2 as the show became a quick hit, and in that example, things ended pretty disastrously. Westworld season 1 is probably one of the best seasons of television ever created, while season 2, while I personally really loved it, is not regarded nearly as high. And honestly, a ton of people just stopped watching the show after a couple of episodes of season 2. And there are really two ways you could look at this. On one hand, maybe they learned from those mistakes in the past and will not repeat them, or have better methods for making sure those things don't happen again. Or maybe it's going to be a case of they made this mistake before and they're going to fall into the same trap a second time. But either way, it definitely seems like Fallout has a very bright future ahead of it. The showrunners further described how our hope is to end every season with a semi-satisfying, semi-open-ended kind of shape. Look, we've talked about 3 seasons and we've talked about 5 seasons. Given the success of the show, 5 is suddenly feeling a little bit more appealing. But the industry is a temperamental thing, and we kind of have to go into each season being like, this is our last. And if you are interested in some Fallout content that you can experience right now, check out this video for some of the latest and greatest in Fallout 4 modding.